With the new Spider Man movie in cinemas, it's the perfect time to talk about procurement's own Spidey Sense. Whether you're sourcing a product or service, that instinct is everything. And it all starts with a simple, high level risk assessment. But why? Because doing this forces you to ask better questions early on. Look, I've heard plenty of sourcing and category managers say sourcing risk sits with the business. It needs to be assessed by those stakeholders. And while that is theoretically correct, let's talk about the stakeholders or what they actually think. Their mindset is usually I need this supplier for 3 months to get over the finish line with my project. And after that, there's someone else's problem. The business lives in the moment and they have an urgent problem that they want someone to fix. And that's it. But let me ask you this: who takes the heat when the supplier drops the ball, breaches data, violates regulations 6 months after signing the contract? You guessed it, it's you in procurement. So today, I'm giving you the simplest way to run your own baseline risk assessment during sourcing. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Procurement Signal, the place for curious supply chain professionals ready to develop. Every week, we dive straight into how modern teams are transforming supplier relationships, elevating vendor management, tackling risk, and driving real sustainability impact. If you are ready to move out of a back office function and into a strategic powerhouse, you are in the right place. This is your signal. Amplify what you can be.
Before we dive in, I just want to make one thing very clear, and that is this scanning activity, this high level risk assessment that you're performing, is designed to identify perceived risk. So you're not acting as a subject matter expert, right? You're not asking for the supplier for 50 pages of documentation or sending them multiple questionnaires. You can save that heavy lifting for your true subject matter experts, such as your cyber team, legal, quality teams. Your job in procurement is to simply scan for red flags. And when you spot one, you flag it to the right SME. So you make sure it gets assessed properly before the contract is signed. Here are four key risks you need to scan for with every sourcing project. Risk number one: cyber threat and IP protection. No, you don't need to be a cybersecurity expert, but you can do a 2 minute search online. Has this vendor had a recent breach? If so, how recent was it? And what were the consequences for the clients? And here's a common trap: don't assume cyber risk only applies to software or technology. Even if you're buying physical products, ask yourself, what intellectual property are we handing over to the supplier? And how are they protecting it? If you're sourcing custom designed physical parts that your engineering team built, where are those blueprints living? And how is IP safeguarded once it leaves your premises? All right, let's move on to risk number two, and that is customer risk. So, in the digital world, this would come back to personal identifiable data or PIIs. Now, PIIs could belong to your customers, to your suppliers or the supply chain, and they could even be employees from your organization. For example, if you're sourcing a digital tool that's ingesting such data, it's your job to ensure the privacy team has vetted the risk and performed appropriate assessments and also implemented appropriate controls before the contract is signed. In the physical world, customer risk may look like product safety. So if you're sourcing a part or a component that is interacting with your end customer, you've got to ask yourself, what is the risk of sourcing this product or service? I'll give you a quick example. If you're sourcing children's toys that are powered by button batteries, you should be flagging that to the quality team. The quality team needs to do a deep dive on testing, are those batteries safe and secured from the children who are using those toys. Risk number three, regulatory and compliance risk. Look, nobody expects procurement to know or understand every single regulation out there. But you must know if the product or service you are sourcing falls into a very specific regulation. For instance, in the manufacturing and in the physical supply chain, there are fair labor practices, there are environmental standards. Many of these are regulations like modern slavery. Non compliance to this carries massive financial and reputational penalties for your organization, and that's subject to where you're operating from. In the digital realm, you're looking at privacy laws like GDPR in Europe, alongside financial reporting standards like SOC 1 or SOC 2. Finally, we have risk number four. This is criticality risk. Ask yourself, what does working with this supplier really mean for your organization? Are they providing you a commodity, something that could be replaced in a few days? Or if the supplier was disrupted, it would leave your operations critical or shut down for the next 6 months. Also, look at the dependency on both sides. How dependent are you on the supplier? And also, how reliant is this supplier on you for your business? If this supplier went under tomorrow, how quickly could you shift your supply chain to a backup? And if the answer is, we're going to take 6 months to do it, that's a major red flag. Procurement already does a lot. I understand that during an RFP or during a contract negotiation, there's a lot going on. You're dealing with a lot of stakeholders. One of the observations I've made is that it's very easy to sit back and go, this is someone else's responsibility. But because procurement is in this unique position in networking with all these different type of stakeholders, you're working with the business, you're working with suppliers, you're working with internal subject matter experts. You are the conduit. And it is super important that this conduit scans through and finds these red flags. The whole idea is not to give you more work, but to actually lessen the risk down the track after the contract is signed. You could automate this entire process. So, if you had a funnel where all sourcing requests came through and that funnel had some logic, that logic could then direct the request for deep dives to your subject matter expert teams. And this is a common practice across most organizations. But if you don't have it, then you need to follow these four risks and make sure that you are the one alerting those SME teams on the red flags that you've just detected. I hope this episode was useful. Please share it with a colleague if you found value in it, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to The Signal. Visit www.procurementsignal.com for more information. Check out our other videos on our YouTube channel.